This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, Adam Murray here, one half of the NBA team. We are finishing up our six-part series of Gone Fishin, our season wrap-ups. We have Denver, Dallas, Memphis, Minnesota, and Portland today. Ending in the Western Conference. Thank you for listening to any of this or all of it or anything. Just thank you very much. We'll be back with the draft preview next. We'll be previewing the lottery. So, again, yeah, thank you. Enjoy the show.
Game-winning shot. Who would take it for Denver? It's Jamal and the Joker. Jokic in the lane, throws it up.
And this is just pure touch. Murray gave it to him, really nothing open. Little contact. And somehow Bam's trying not to foul, so he's going straight up. Joker just with touch.
Okay, Adam, let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. A huge jump forward, 54-28 season, lost in 7 games in the second round of the Portland Trailblazers. A home game in the Game 7, too. Were you surprised by the fact that they couldn't push forward into the conference finals with a 2 seed, or was that just sort of the sign of a very young team trying to learn how to win in the playoffs?
That's the thing, as we mentioned about the playoffs, like they're a 2 seed, that's way overachieving for them. This was a group that had never made the playoffs together. They're one of the youngest groups out there, and with the exception of Paul Millsap, and they got as far as they did, which you don't expect. And they're like, oh, why didn't they go further? Well, they weren't supposed to get that far to begin with. Their progression has been way sped up.
Well, they also went 7 games with an undermanned Spurs team, which was a little bit surprising. But knowing Popovich and how that team was not really the best version and how the Nuggets were trying to learn how to win in the postseason was sort of like a congregation of it all. And that's what sort of led to a close series. Would you agree?
Agreed. And the reason, Popovich put Spurs in there to begin with, because if it was probably any other team, they probably would have blown them out. It's just,
Yeah, but it was not a great Spurs team. Let's be serious. Like it wasn't like if we had to put that in the Spurs, this isn't a Spurs preview, but I'd give them like maybe a C at best as a team.
No, this was a far cry from what they used to be.
Yeah. Just an excellent season out of, obviously, Nikola Jokic, who got a big payday, I want to say last summer, but he came pretty close to averaging a triple-double, 20 points, about 11 rebounds, 7 assists, over 1.4 steals, got to the free throw line a lot. Not the most athletic guy, as you can see now that he's been like a go-to guy for Denver, and people have seen him on a winning team for a whole year, being put on the spotlight in the playoffs. Not super athletic, but he's got some sneaky athleticism, and his passing is remarkable as a big man. He's just a very good rebounder. What's your take on Jokic, and how did you feel about where he would have sat on the MVP standings for you?
It is with Jokic. It's the rare point center, and then you have the point guard, and with cousin Jamal, who's not really a point guard anyways. So
he's a shooter. He's like Buddy Hield.
It's one of those things where the pieces somehow just fit perfectly, and Gary Harris is a complementary piece, and there's no superstar on that team. It's just they're all super young kids who are getting better, and really the offseason for Denver just hinges on Millsap and his $32 million option.
30.15, but that is a team option. If they do use the team option and pick it up, that puts them at $120 million, which is right at the luxury tax. They literally would have no room unless they, renounce Trey Lyles, which they're likely to do anyway, not re-sign Isaiah Thomas, maybe get a little bit creative, try to trade Mason Plumlee, which is going to be difficult, but I'm just giving you some ideas of what they can do to make cap space if they pick up Millsap. If they don't pick up Millsap, obviously you're losing a player that averaged 12 points and 7 rebounds, but now you got a little bit of wiggle room there to add a piece.
Yeah, you have but the problem is with Millsap, the team was way better with him than they were without him. Remember, he was out last year.
He was out for the majority of the season, and then they made a run at
they were
the end.
terrible.
Yeah.
They looked lost on defense. All of a sudden now, like he's like the.
They were one of the best defenses in the league. They were 6th in points allowed and 10th in efficiency. and they were 8th in rebounding. That was also helped a lot by Jokic, and Plumlee, surprisingly, was a very good rebounder for them.
So they're in good shape, I think. My hashtag for them was higher and higher because things are just looking up for them, and they got everything rolling, so they should just keep going with it.
It just reminded me of Ghostbusters 2 when you said higher and higher. I did skim by that one really quick so we could just talk about free agency and get it out of the way because there's really not a lot other than that team option for Millsap. Trey Lyles, do you renounce him? He averaged 8 points and 4 rebounds.
He was nothing special.
Okay, Isaiah Thomas, not a chance?
No.
Because he was pretty much out for the majority of the postseason. Am I right or wrong?
He was out of the rotation because he came back too late, and he put up. He was okay, but he couldn't do anything.
I'm at the point where I would call Gary Harris, Will Barton, and Malik Beasley indispensable for that rotation. Monte Morris, he's a really good salaried player anyway. I mean, there's no reason to have to move him unless you want to like sweeten a deal to try to get a good player in a trade. But I don't see that happening. The one who might get moved is Juancho Hernangomez.
I don't know how he fell out of the rotation. They loved him, and then all of a sudden they started to hate him. But the one thing Denver needs to do is sort of get a little more size. They got a lot of guards.
Torrey Craig's good defensively, but he just can't cut it. Like he's not big enough. I do agree with that. Maybe Michael Porter Jr.
They got what's his name? He was injured. Michael Porter. Yes, that's what you said. I think you said Otto Porter. I'm like, no.
No. Pick up Michael. No. Michael Porter Jr. Like they basically took a flyer on him. He might be able to do some.
Yeah, and he might be the replacement for Millsap. And if he comes back healthy, but who knows? Either way, this team is looking in good shape.
Yeah, it's an excellent team. I don't know if they can match 54 wins again. That's going to be difficult, but I don't see them dropping completely. Like I don't see this as like an outlier, and then they go back to being average. Definitely not.
Yep, not an anomaly.
Got it. There it is. Corner, Luka goes in. How did he do it? Down to 8. Moves on Polo. Takes it in. Hammers it home.
Brings it down towards a minute to play in the first quarter. Luka with a step up for the baseline.
High level his skill is.
Doncic. Oh, he banks it in.
Forcing him to be the shooter. Good cut right here.
That cut. Oh, and Luka flips. Luka, it opens up, he drives, a Luka dunk!
A lot of open shots right now.
LeBron, a cut for the weak side, Luka blocked him twice!
Adam, the Dirk Nowitzki era, it was probably over, like, figuratively over, probably like 2 or 3 years ago. He was well into his twilight by then, but it's officially over. He has retired. Now we have found the new Euro hero for Dallas, and that's wow, say that 3 times fast. And that's Luka Doncic. You're high on Luka. He's probably going to win the Rookie of the Year. But how do you feel about him leading the team with Kristaps Porzingis once Porzingis is ready to play?
I am still sky high on him because you saw him play. You saw what he could do. He did things a rookie should not be able to do.
Yeah, well, he was a seasoned player from EuroLeague because he was playing.
Yeah, and people, not everybody knew he was a teenager playing for
Real Madrid, huh?
Yeah, playing in the Spanish league, the second best league in the world.
In the world, yeah.
And he was a teenager, not a freshman, but a straight 17-year-old.
Not only that, didn't he carry his country to a win in Eurobasket? That was the second sign where it's like, man, you got a really good player here.
Yeah, he is a transcendent, once in a lifetime prospect, and Dallas is lucky enough to get him.
Well, not only that, they had to trade up to get him because of the Trae Young thing. That's why Luka and Trae are always going to be compared to one another, which I don't think is fair to either player. They did make a deal where they basically dumped the house. Harrison Barnes, they shipped to the Kings. DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews, and Dennis Smith were all shipped out to get Kristaps Porzingis. But Porzingis, I believe, is going to sign the qualifying offer because he wants to be an unrestricted free agent.
We'll see what happens with him. I don't, who knows what he'll do. he just needs to come back from his injury, but it'll be, they have money for 2 max contracts as well. And
oh yeah, they only have $46 million, and they have $46 million on payroll, not counting Dwight Powell, but they could probably dump Dwight Powell because
Powell is re-signing. He's signing an extension because they like him.
Mm-hmm.
And you liked him too. He was overachieving, and he's a hustle second unit guy who unfortunately gets started minutes. But the thing is, they have money. Cuban has been known to spend, mostly foolishly, but he has no problem making these trades. So,
yeah. What did you think about bringing in Tim Hardaway Jr. and Courtney Lee as part of the Porzingis deal? They had to pay a price in order to do that. But Hardaway Jr. can score. I mean, he is overpaid. Courtney Lee is a waste. That's one where you're just going to have to find a way to get rid of him.
Yeah, Courtney Lee is gone, but Tim Hardaway, nobody, it's not his fault he's getting paid too much. It's just somebody needs to tell him, hey, maybe you shouldn't try to shoot your way out of a slump.
Mm-hmm.
Try passing it, because he is a black hole. But considering the teams he's been on, there's been no reason for him not to be a black hole, because he was the only one who can score. So, again, Dallas is finally turning the corner of having their plan of what they want to do. And, the players still play hard under Carlisle. So,
Did you feel like they gave up on Dennis Smith Jr. too early?
No, they couldn't give up on him because it was plain as day that he and Doncic could not play together. Doncic is a point forward, and he needs the ball in his hands. Therefore, you can't have the ball-hogging point guard of Dennis Smith. Nothing against him. He's going to have ups and downs, and he'll show flashes, but you can't have them play on the same floor together.
The one thing that surprised me about DeAndre Jordan is that he actually rebounded the ball really, really well. I can understand why they gave up on it, because the season they knew that they weren't going to be going anywhere. But the fact that they just shipped him to the Knicks without any resistance kind of surprised me. It was a 1-year contract anyway.
Yeah, it was, hey, we wanted you before. We're still in love with you. Oh, wait, we regret our decision. But again, yeah, Dallas, we could say they looked like they wanted to start to do stuff.
Yeah, Justin Jackson I thought was a decent pickup in the Harrison Barnes deal, so they're going to probably have some value. I'm going to give you some names that are in the free agent market for Dallas, and you just tell me if you think they'll be back. Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah, you like him.
Maximilian Kleber.
Probably not.
This one's interesting. I'll lump them together because they're Cuban favorites. J.J. Barea and Devin Harris.
No, they're too old.
Well, J.J., I believe, tore his Achilles, correct? And it was during the season, so he might just retire. Trey Burke.
Probably get paid by somebody else.
Okay. That's pretty much it. Dwight Powell, like you said, I think they like Jalen Brunson, so we'll just kind of keep an eye on that, especially since the fact that they needed a point guard. So Brunson played after they traded Smith, so Brunson played probably more minutes than he should have. Dirk Nowitzki, how much will they miss him as a player in actuality for what he was doing for them for the last couple of seasons?
Dirk was just a consummate employee. He wasn't the Kobe. He's like, give me my 30 minutes. He always took deals. He always, I'll go to the bench. I'll do less minutes. I'll mentor the young kids. Whereas Kobe was like, screw that. I'm going to get mine. And, at no point was there... Nobody said anything bad about him ever.
He was terrible defensively the last couple of years. That was the one thing I just couldn't. It was really sad watching him trying to wheel back defensively and just like stumble all over himself or just be in a standstill, with his back issues and other things like that and knee issues.
Well, that was just age and injuries coming through, and you can see it with old people. But he was like, you know what? I'll play 20 minutes. I'll play for $5 million. Him and like Tim Duncan did the same. It wasn't give me the supermax deal and I'm going to cripple your franchise. It was let's try to make stuff better. And he won a championship. So
that's what I was going to say. What's the legacy that Dirk Nowitzki leaves behind in the NBA?
That step back three.
The step back fadeaway, the Dirk.
Yeah.
Best foreign born player in NBA history.
Well, that would be Tim Duncan, who's from the Virgin
Islands. That doesn't count. No. That's U.S. That's U.S. oil. That doesn't count. He's from Germany. But, I'll always remember that 2011 Finals MVP performance. He was so good when they eliminated the Heat. So good. He was like Elvin Hayes with, like, a ridiculous jump shot.
But he'll just be remembered as just one of the good guys. Just not, didn't ruffle any feathers, just came in, played, and... he'll be missed.
But we closed the book on Dirk. We finally opened and wrote a a prologue on Luka. Now we're going to see what happens with Chapter 1 with the cap space that they have, or if they can do something in the draft.
We're going to pick our lineups. Oh, nice backdoor cut by Conley and a pitch out. Wow! Jaren Jackson! Holy cow, what a finish from the youngster.
The Grizzlies here, good job. Backdoor cut by Conley, and because of the cut, draws the defenders. Nobody there, and Hernan Gomez, a brief attempt at this monstrous slam.
Okay, Adam, are we hitting the John Morant era in Memphis now that they've won the number 2 overall pick?
The grit and grind is over. The slow down ball
that's
is
been over. Yeah,
it's been over, but it's officially been dead and buried when they traded Gasol away. So now Connolly's the next to go. They've already said they're going to get John Morant. The problem is the team got so old they have no prospects whatsoever. All they have is Jackson from last year. They traded all their picks. They traded a first round pick for Denyada Davis, who they cut a year later. 2 years ago they signed Roddy's
Zagarich, but the biggest one that you didn't mention was still the Chandler Parsons contract, which is just hovering.
I was going to say that they signed Roddy Zagarich and then cut him in the preseason. So they just gave $2 million away for no reason. And yes, Chandler Parsons, it was one of those. Well, we needed a third star to make our other 2 players happy, and then he got injured, and now he's crippled the team. I know Boston is looking for that, like going, ooh, that's not.
They did have the funny situation where they had the 3-way, I want to say, with the Suns and the Wizards, where they had 2 Brookses, and they couldn't figure out which Brooks was in the deal, so the deal died. You remember that?
Yeah, and everyone was like, what is with this front office?
Marshall wound up going, but Dylan is still there.
Yeah, and everybody thought it was Dylan. Like, no, we're going to give you the shitty one. And
don't say that. Justin Rosero is a big Marshawn fan. Don't say that.
And the thing with Memphis is they had deals for Connolly, and they backed out of every single one. Mm-hmm. So teams are going to go hard for him, and that's a good thing. So they could start to stockpile.
I think they could re-explore it with Utah, because the rumor was that the Jazz were really hot and heavy on Mike Conley at the deadline. They just couldn't get a deal done. Now I think it's very real. And look, if you're Conley, you just saw JaMychal Green and Garrett Temple play for a playoff Clipper team, and then you're watching Marc Gasol in the NBA Finals, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I need to get out of Memphis. I might be able to.
Charlotte thought they had a deal with Memphis for Gasol. So
yeah.
It was, basically with Memphis is they have no prospects. They've spent their years going with D-League players in 10-day contracts when Connolly gets hurt every year. And now the front office has changed over, which is a good thing. You got all the old people out. You got new blood in. So they're taking the first step. They
don't even have a coach yet. Am I right or wrong?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure, but they're just one big sigh. Just hashtag sigh for them, because they don't even have a plan to start tanking or a plan to do anything. But they know they need to do something. Okay.
But let's get optimistic. The one there's 2 parts of Memphis that I would look forward to outside of just the horrible cap situation with Chandler Parsons and obviously Conley's deal, unless they can move it once they bring in John Morant as a rookie, unless they want to just have Conley be like, a veteran leader who teaches the ways to Morant, and then they ship Conley in the deadline. But we'll see. Here are the key points. Jaren Jackson Jr. wound up being a good hit I think he was the number 3 pick, right? That one wound up. He was a good pick. I'll just put it that way. He was 4th, but he was a good pick. 13 points, 4 rebounds, almost a steal per game, over a block per game. He's going to wind up being a star. The other part is the haul that they took in with all the transactions that they did with all these teams. I thought they actually didn't do too poorly. Like, Avery Bradley played well for them. Jonas Valanciunas put on some mega numbers down the stretch. I know that was during tank time, but I still think there's some value in watching players put up really big numbers in games, because it shows how much they care.
Yeah, but at the same time, you mentioned Jackson, and they don't have any other pick because they've developed nobody, and they spent all their time getting Tyreek Evans on that 1-year deal, and we're going to ship him out, so we're going to shut him down. Then where he's back, and then he left last year. So, I mean, Brooks is decent, I guess.
DeLon Wright played really well for them. Now he's a restricted free agent.
You're just trying to say something good about him because every year
he's a restricted free agent. So what do you do this time?
Let him go because every year he's done nothing and continuing this year. But for some reason you feel the need to defend him. Like he's your one guy you're still sticking to.
I think he's a good player. What about Kyle Anderson? He averaged 8 points, 6 rebounds. They gave him his contract was somewhere in the range of like 4 years, $36 million. It was one of those kinds of contracts.
He was one of those things where they thought they got to steal. We all thought they got to steal from
the Spurs,
From the Spurs let him go, and the Spurs really could have used him, and he really didn't do that good in Memphis. So maybe a new coaching change will be good for him. I mean, not trading him, but
I think they're still high on Ivan Rabb. They like Javon Carter. He played a lot of minutes. For a second round guy. So there's a little bit there. Stat-wise, it's just not good, except for blocks and steals. They were and points allowed. They were good defensively, but you talked about how slow the pace was. Just absolutely god-awful on offense. So your biggest need, obviously, you need shooters, and you need people that can get to the free throw line, especially with Gasol gone.
They have a lot of work to do.
Yes. But John Morant's coming.
Hey.
Okay, that's it. So
no, it's not.
Why?
Because it's the series finale of DC Post-Crisis Management.
Oh.
And Russell Sellers and Todd Weber take a look at Heroes in Crisis and complete Russell's journey.
You said that so tantalizingly. I'm sure they're going to appreciate that. Well, Post-Crisis, is that like a comic book event?
I don't know, but
it sounds interesting. You made it sound more interesting.
Well, how about Russell and Todd then announced the debut of a new podcast, DC for You.
Oh.
In the first episode of this weekly show, the guys kick off celebrating the anniversaries of Batman and Batman 89.
Yes, because whenever I think of enormous successes in the last 5 years, I think of Batman.
Well, they finally got out of the 70s, weren't they?
Well,
weren't
they just casted I don't know if they're going to talk about it on their show, but they just casted Robert Pattinson. He's going to be the Batman.
Yes, he'll be the Batman.
Yes.
The Hard Traveling Fanboys wrap up Avengers Month with a farewell to the Hard Travelers for Hire series and the Giant Side Edition, complete with an all-star panel and comprehensive ranking of the MCU movies.
Wait, the Hard Traveling Fanboys are finishing up? It's over?
The Travelers for Hire series.
Oh, okay. I thought I was going to have to call Greg and see if he was actually finishing his show up. I was like, oh no.
No, they'll have some other stupid stuff to talk
even though
about.
When they had even though we did a thing for their 100th episode, they didn't do one for ours. Remember that?
Because we hit 100 before even that. Like we're in the 180s now.
Yeah.
We're high up there, but we hit 100.
Yeah,
before
we're like Sonny and Waldorf now. We're just talking just to talk. So
we're just the old guys at the end of the bench. They're still on the team. We don't know how, but in this 28th episode, let's talk to us when you're in the 180th episode, like us.
Yes, when we're actually totally grizzled. It's so weird. The only thing that's weird is that we literally started the show right when the Warriors got good when they hired Steve Kerr. Now we're in a point where Lord knows with the Warriors, so it's kind of interesting. We might have a little bit of a paradigm shift, as they call it.
Well, in this episode of Songs with Friends, Steve and Kelly feature Bob Seger's Night Moves and Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Life.
Third Eye Blind's a good band. You know the lead singer dated Charlize Theron for like a really long time?
No, I did not.
But now you do.
And the second episode of the PTBN E-Ticket Attraction finds host Jason Sherman and guests Andy Atherton, Neil Trauma, and Chad Campbell talking everything Epcot.
I actually just got from Epcot.
Thoughts?
That's the Disney World where you can get drunk and have fun. It's not really for kids. It's Disney World for adults. You get
drunk and have fun?
Yeah, you got the other areas. The one funny part was when we were walking through Canada, they had a French band, and she's like, "Why are they doing French music in Canada?" I'm like, "Well, Quebec's there." and so there's some funny stuff. Soarin' was like an awesome ride. I loved it. And then it's like a project. It's almost like the one that you do at Pandora at the Animal Kingdom, where it's like a projection type of ride. And I'm trying to think of all the other things that happened at Epcot. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I did one of those Tomorrowland things. It was cool. It doesn't change the fact that Tomorrowland was like a god awful movie. That's what I kept thinking while I was in Epcot. I was like, yeah.
But now you could say you traveled the world because you went to all these different countries.
Well, you can't get me on a plane. But yeah, I went as far as France and then I tapped out. I was like, they're like, where's the Eiffel Tower? I'm like, I don't care. Let's go home. But yes, a lot of people get drunk at night at Epcot. That I did learn.
But not you.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. They got me one of those little daiquiri things at the French area, but I'm like, I'm gonna have to finish this here and just slam it because I am not walking around with this like pina colada looking thing. People are gonna laugh at me. So it was, but Epcot was fun. There's things for kids to do. There's some really neat stores. The one I liked most was Hollywood Studios. That's the one with the Toy Story Land that they just opened up and Star Tours and all that stuff. They actually are opening Galaxy's Edge in August. So that was the cool one.
And be sure to keep an eye on the social media feeds as the reboot of the Greatest Song of the 80s tournament starts soon.
Oh, Greatest Song of the 80s, Danger Zone, and everything else. Am I right or wrong?
Danger Zone is... that song is personally banned from my car.
Okay, anything Michael Jackson? Like, what would be on the Adam Murray 80s song, like, playlist, the Spotify playlist?
No, Danger Zone was playing, and I was driving through Vermont. Me and my friends were going up to Montreal, and then we're going down a hill, so I wasn't watching my speed. All of a sudden, a cop comes by. He's like, "Yo, you're going 90 in a 65." I'm like, "Ah, crap!" And Danger Zone was playing, so I'm like, you know what? This song is banned.
No,
it was my own fault, but
80s and 90s is my wheelhouse. So I mean, like. Obviously, the obvious ones that you could think of from the 80s, that like Richard Marx, Bryan Adams. I like that soft rock, Roxette, George Michael.
The 80s, you just have to go with the Rocky theme.
Well, yeah, and
Eye of the Tiger has to be
Survivor. Yeah, that's that.
Survivor, Eye of the Tiger.
Cyndi Lauper has a couple slammers in there. And then you got your like Living Color and Poison, Motley Crue's got some hits, Guns N' Roses. It's got a little bit of a wide variety. The soft rock is very soft, but I think that the Megadeths of the world and the Guns N' Roses, you got some pretty like nice head.
Well, that's the thing. Is, are they going to do that? Are you going to have soft rock against soft rock, or are you going to put Faith No More, Epic against Air Supply All Out of Love?
I'm almost sure Epic was in the 90s. I'm almost sure of it.
Is that 92?
Yeah, that's what. But we're doing an 80s countdown. We're not.
I was thinking of We Care a Lot, Faith No More, which was far less popular.
Which is like, and then the Eurythmics, which was like Sweet Dreams Are Made of These. That's going to be up there really high. Michael Jackson's going to be up there multiple times because he was like owning the Billboard charts forever.
Yeah, but do you put Michael Jackson back up there now?
Stop that! Yes, of course. That's like when Scientology made Tom Cruise crazy, and people are like, well, is Tom Cruise a bad... Can we watch his movies? Yes, I can watch his movies. I mean, I'm not being controversial, am I?
So keep an eye on Place to Be Nation. Download our stuff.
You got me all riled up for the 80s stuff. I'm like really game for it now.
Rose out of the corner, and it's a new career high for Derrick Rose.
That's crazy. A lot of dribbling.
The stop, the go, the finish. 46 for Rose. Rose gets inside, puts up a tough shot, and hits it anyway. 48. A half a century for Derrick Rose here tonight.
To have a game like this, 50 points against a good team.
Crowder, 3, no long rebound tracked down by Rubio. Ingles will fire for 3. That won't drop. Another rebound. Exum has it blocked in the corner by who else? Derrick, 2011 MVP, Rose.
And everybody just streams out on the floor to greet him, showing the respect. And they all know what this means to him. They know what he's lost and now what he's trying to find. What a great moment for Derrick Rose.
All right, Adam, the Tom Thibodeau, the Tibbs era has officially been ended in Minnesota for the Timberwolves. It got vaulted like pretty early in the process. I don't remember how many games Thibodeau coached. It's probably somewhere around 50 to 55, and they finally gave up on it. This was not too long after they traded Jimmy Butler when he was like just extremely unhappy in Minnesota. A lot of people point to the speculation that him and Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns were butting heads a lot. But how did you feel about the Minnesota Timberwolves going into the season before all this Jimmy Butler stuff happened? And how did you feel at the end of it once Ryan Saunders, who eventually got the head coaching full-time position, finished the season for them?
Yeah, with Saunders, it was just like we didn't feel like searching for anybody. I guess you're good enough. Mm-hmm. Because the roster... they are who they are. Wiggins will put on a great game he's inspired once every 4 games.
He's good at getting to the free throw line, and he's obviously because of that's why he got drafted number 1. He's a great athlete. The problem is you just don't see it enough.
He's just disinterested. Towns, they're sort of just wasting him away. They got, have another year of Saric and Covington will help because Covington was injured. And injuries really took down this team a lot because Derrick Rose was a bright spot and he got injured.
Yeah, he had a 50-point game early in the season.
It's just basically the season. When you're starting Josh Okogie and expecting him to do anything, it's a bad... There's nothing good. Like, this team is just way too good on paper to be this bad. And under Thibodeau, they just looked lost on defense. They didn't, usually the team may be bad, but they're still going to. Nope, they just didn't look. They just didn't look like they were there at all.
That's a good point about the defense. They were 20, and this is a Thibodeau coach team. They were bad on defense before this, but even when they made the playoffs, but they were 23rd in points allowed and defensive efficiency, 19th in rebounding. That is not a Thibodeau stat. They usually hit the boards hard. And then they fouled a lot, and they didn't make threes, which is also, unfortunately, a Thibodeau standard where they just don't take a lot of threes. Under Saunders, we'll see how it's different. You did mention Towns, Karl Anthony Towns. And the fact is, even though it might feel like he's going to waste in Minnesota, he's not wasting his talents. He had probably his best season as a player.
Oh, no, he is growing as a person.
He had a stretch in March where he was just annihilating teams.
I mean, he's just wasting away because that team is just spinning its wheels going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just doing good because, at least he's getting along with everybody and him and Wiggins are... But again, when Jimmy Butler sort of stunted this team's growth, you can't... Okay, here's Wiggins. He doesn't really want to play. Okay, so you play the same position as him and you don't need the ball all the time in your hands, so he's not going to get it. Okay, I could see how that's going to work well.
Yeah, it was just a crazy dynamic where they fed into the speculation, and it just bubbled all the way above the surface to where Jimmy Butler was going to practice, basically calling out his teammates.
Just yelling at everybody.
He played 10 games and averaged 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. I mean, Jimmy Butler when he was going to work for the Wolves, he was good. That, and then they made the trade where they got Robert Covington and Dario Saric. Which one did you like the most between the two?
I thought Saric didn't do much as I thought he would.
He played more games than Covington, but Covington
got injured. And when Covington comes back next year, having a year with all of them and everybody healthy will help this team because they had to do a lot of patchwork halfway through because you're getting G League guys and 10-day guys all of a sudden in at the end, and it's hard to get any sort of rotation. And you were right about Gorgui Dieng. His
Gorgui Dieng is a bad contract, $16 million coming up, and it's not expiring until 2021. That's 2 years from now, so just not good. Their biggest issue for free agency is Derrick Rose is an unrestricted free agent and Tyus Jones is a restricted free agent. What I see coming is that I think that Glenn Taylor wants to just say goodbye to the whole Thibodeau alliance. So I think Rose, I think Taj Gibson, obviously Luol Deng, who only played 20
somebody's
games.
going to pay for Rose.
But that's what I'm trying to say. They're all gone. I think they're just going to start over. They're going to match whatever is given to Tyus Jones, or they're going to ink him to a deal before, kind of in the same vein as Patty Mills with the Spurs, and they're going to make him the starting point guard once Jeff Teague is finished.
Well, they don't have to.
Or if they can trade Teague.
Well, Teague is also a big disappointment and has become one of the
He's a good assist man, but that is literally all he can do.
No, he's become one of the lower tier point guards.
Sure.
And, as much as Utah doesn't like Ricky Rubio, it's like, well, you majorly downgraded from him. Mm-hmm. And you could say, you lose Derrick Rose, you lose Taj Gibson. They have, it's not like they're losing the position because you have Jones and you have Saric there. So it's not like you're losing production from this. They're not going to be devastated by it. It's just this team needs to somehow get together and decide what they want to do.
Yeah, and they have the 11th pick in the draft, so it's not like they got tons of leverage either. And they were the bad kind of bad. They were the team that was just decent enough to give you a scare, but not good enough to make the playoffs. I mean, that was pretty obvious from the get-go. They're
the bad kind of bad. And once they talk themselves into bowl, like thinking that'll be a good option, it's just going to be like this team just needs. I don't know if Saunders is the solution, but they need some sort of. They need to have an identity, and
they had so many rentals like Mitch Creek and Jared Bayless, Anthony Tolliver, Isaiah Cannon, Cameron Reynolds. Like they had so many guys that they had to rely on due to either injuries or just like trying to mix up the rotation. Okogie was like a surprisingly good player for a rookie, so that one they probably hit good on. And then the other rookie that they had who didn't play much was Keita Bates-Diop. So let's just get down to business with Jang. Do you think they can move him?
Probably not.
Okay, because that's going to ruin any chance of them getting anything above like a $10 to $15 million.
Yeah, but do they need that necessarily?
Well, they're not going to. I don't think Glenn Taylor's going to touch the tax, so they're going to sit around 110.
Do you need to do that, or do you need to be like, look, let's have a year developing some chemistry. Let's get Wiggins into this, and let's get him to finally play hard.
Well, that I agree with, but my point was that like I don't think Jang's going to be a factor into any of that. I don't think him being around is going to do any good for them.
He's not doing good for them, but if nobody's going to take him, then nobody's going to take him. There's no point of
Here's another problem. Do you think Robert Covington and Andrew Wiggins play the same position? I know that was an issue with Butler and Wiggins. Do you think that'll be an issue with Covington and Wiggins?
No, because Covington is a defender. He's a 3-and-D, whereas Wiggins is neither.
Yeah, he averages a steal, but that's more like that kind of like crazy transition type of steals because he was such a rangy athlete. But yeah, at the end of the day, can Andrew Wiggins not just be a sidekick, but be a great complementary player? The Kobe to Towns' Shaq. That's what we want to find out.
Well, you're going to anger some people with that analogy. No, he could be the Pippen to the Jordan. He just. Again, the question is, does he want to be? Who knows? Let's give him a year. Let's give Saunders a year with everybody together to see if it works before we blow it up.
Outside of that, I don't know what Ryan Saunders wants to do. I mean, obviously he was related to Flip, so he was more of a offensively minded type of coach when he was coaching. But Lord knows what that means for Ryan Saunders. When he coached, I guess offensively they were a little bit better. He gave a lot more freedom to Towns to do what he had to do. But I don't know enough about how he wants to coach this team for a full season to really get a feel on how different they're going to be compared to when Tom Thibodeau coached them.
It'll be a different team.
Yes.
I mean, the talent, schematic-wise. Players-wise, they'll be all the same.
Inbounds volleyed and tipped. Grabbed by Nurkic. Guns it ahead to Lillard. Lillard into the paint, turns. Swings it to Aminu. Makes a tremendous catch. Back to Dame. Raising and hits! Damian Lillard from the outer limits reels in a three.
Dame ends up with it in the corner. What a deflection from Mo. And Dame saying, I didn't forget about all that nonsense that took place in the first half.
The Portland Trail Blazers finally reaching with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum as the main nucleus. The Western Conference Finals, only to get swept by a Kevin Durant-less Golden State Warriors team. They did have that epic moment where they eliminated the Thunder with Damian Lillard having a 50-point game and sinking a deep three, and then they went 7 games and sort of a slugfest with a young Denver Nugget team. Age-wise and experience-wise, the Trailblazers are pretty young still too, but they do have a lot of questions.
They do because they're stuck with who they are.
Well, that's what I was about to say. They don't have a lot of answers.
The GM said, I'm going to keep this team together for 4 years, and spent a ton of money on really incompatible pieces. Mm-hmm. Evan Turner sort of was just in the playoffs. He was down to like 18 minutes. He wasn't even like the sixth man. So he fell apart. And you have, Aminu is going to be a free agent this year, and they don't have money to
Seth
keep him.
Curry, who they rented, is going to be gone.
Who they managed to pick up was a nice, solid backup. And he's going to be gone because teams are going to pay for them. And you got nothing. All you have is just this team that you put together 4 years ago, and you've been capped out ever since, so you can't move anybody. All you could do is swap out Caleb Swanigan for Scalabissiere. And
well, money's going to be obvious. It's been an issue for the Trailblazers because they've been so capped out. They got to a point where they had to take on a buyout for Andrew Nicholson's contract just to get rid of Alan Crabb, whose name we just heard recently in another trade. But that's because he was a bad contract. But that was a bad contract that the Trailblazers had matched, and that was only one of them, man. I mean, Al-Farouq Aminu, I wouldn't call a bad contract, but he made double-digit salary. And then you had Evan Turner, who was absolutely a bad deal, and then Myers Leonard. But the funny part is Myers Leonard played well in the postseason. So is he a bad deal now?
He played decent, but he's still overpaid. And that's the funny thing. We could go back literally to the Gone Fishing 3 years ago and be like, okay, so you got Evan Turner, so you're letting Alan Crabb walk, right? What? No, you're keeping him, and you're going to sign Harkless too, who was also a free agent. What are you thinking? Getting 3 players who are exactly the same.
Now, when you look at the players behind them, they're in okay shape because I think their drafting has been solid. They picked up Scalabissiere in a trade. I think they probably are going to keep him around. Anthony Simons, they took a flyer on because he was so young. He came straight out of high school. Zach Collins, I think they like a lot. He played sort of like a small ball center, while Josef Nurkic, who broke his leg, I'm pretty sure he'll be back for the start of the next season.
His loss was noticeable because he fit that team very well.
And he's such a better rebounder than Enes Kanter. That's the other thing.
Well, he could play defense, and
Enes Kanter did not play terrible defense in the
he
playoffs.
Overachieved.
Yes,
he was who he was, and there was a lot of Swiss cheese defense through him, but he legitimately, it was playoff Kanter, where it wasn't like the Knicks where it was just where you just go to die. He played hard, but again, the problem with this team is just they're just stuck in this rut who they are, and you've got McCollum and Lillard in their prime, and you're just wasting them because you can't change pieces around them.
Let me say this. Let me just before we go in, C.J. McCollum, the trade rumors, that's got to be over with, right?
I said, what if they did some radical? I just pitched this to you randomly, like. What if they just said, okay, we need a radical change. Hey, New Orleans, Anthony Davis for McCollum, straight up.
Well, it's not going to happen. I still don't see it happening.
Let's just say they did.
That would make Portland a contender because now you got Anthony Davis and Damian Lillard, who's up for a supermax.
But who they wouldn't say no to that. So they could move Lillard and McCollum and hey, take deadweight Turner with you, and they could change pieces they want, but I just don't. They're good, but they're not good enough, and that's sort of just where Lillard had to play. He had to play with crazy.
They're right under the tax based off of what they have for projected cap, not including the unrestricted free agency of Aminu, Rodney Hood, who we didn't talk about, who played okay for them as a rental, Kanter, Curry. But here's the problem, and they're at like about $121 million, which is under the tax. However, Lillard's salary is probably going to be on the rise because of the fact that they're going to seal him on a supermax deal, which he's eligible for because of all that all NBA incentive laden stuff. So that's going to probably rise. And you got, I think the real thing that's really hindering them is the Myers Leonard and Evan Turner deals, and whether or not you can stretch them or you can find somebody who's just willing to take on that contract. But then again, a bad Portland contract was Alan Crabb, and he went to one of the only places where you could put that bad money, in Atlanta. So where else can you do this other than stretching him?
Well, the problem is Nicholson is already stretched for like 5 more years, I think.
Personnel-wise, X's and O's wise, what do you think that the Trailblazers need?
They just need, I don't know.
Athleticism?
They have no move other than to get the back of their bench filled.
Mm-hmm. Offensively, they're very good.
offensively they're good. Lillard and McCollum, the same player. They have the same strengths, the same weaknesses. Mm-hmm. It's sort of redundant when you put Turner and Crabbe out there, and Turner and anybody, Turner was just useless. Aminu, like I said, he'll be gone. He's be overpaid. Zach Collins, I did not think was good. You did. And then Nurkic coming back from his injury. So the team is who we are, who they thought they were.
Yes. So there's really not going to – here's the only problem. Their bench, which was a little bit helpful for them in the playoffs, I think it's going to get a little thinner because they're going to have to get rid of someone between Leonard and Turner. And then it just depends on how Nurkic recovers from that leg injury and whether or not they're going to be ready to go. I do think they're going to miss what they were able to get out of Hood and Canner. So will you be able to get something suitable either in the draft or maybe like a small-time mid-level type of free agent? That's going to be really interesting.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content, offering tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all these great shows, plus archives of our past podcasts from over the past 8 years as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth search projects, and much more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping. We want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com as well. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.